As you probably know, n8n agents have become so much smarter in the last couple months here, and in this video we're going to be going over the 6 biggest changes that I've seen with the recent updates. Let's get into this right now. Before we talk about these 6, I want to point out that if you don't see any of these in your account, it's because you actually have to update to the latest version. How you do that is you go over to the admin panel over here. It's going to take you to a page like this. I like to sign in with this link right here, and then from that page, it's going to ask you for your email. It'll send you over an email to log in. I know this is like the most complicated thing for something that should be incredibly freaking simple. And then once you go ahead and sign in through your email, it's going to redirect you over to the manage page here. Just make sure to click on manage workspace, and then you'll see the n8n version here. Okay, that was a lot of explanation to do probably the simplest thing that should be available in the platform. Let's dive into this right now. The first one is going to be a nice and simple one. You guys have probably seen it. Essentially, with one of the new updates a couple months ago, in these sub-agent tools, and keep in mind you have a main AI agent here, and this can call sub-agents here, such as a sub-agent flow like this. But essentially, you're passing parameters back and forth, right? And so traditionally what you need to do is you need to define from AI, right? And you're essentially telling n8n in this particular parameter here, hey, I want you to pull out the email. I want you to use your own internal logic to pull out the email. The thing is doing this over and over and over again is a lot of boilerplate, and it's a lot of wasted time to do something that should essentially just be like a one-click button, and that's exactly what they did. They rolled out this one-click button here where you can just click that, and now the AI is going to automatically define this parameter for you. No longer do you have to say, hey, for the email field, you should probably look for the email field, or for the first name field, you should probably look for the first name field. You can just click that button and it's going to do that for you. Of course, you can add in a description if you need to provide more clarity as to what exactly it is you're pulling out using AI. The next thing that I want to talk about here is humans in the loop. So this is a sub agent, okay? And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to test this workflow. And after testing, you'll notice that it's actually stuck on this Telegram node here. And the reason why is because this is a human in the loop node, which essentially means if I just open the plus button up here, you can see human in the loop. You can just add it in here. It's not actually going to pass until you confirm that it should pass or decline that it passes. And why this is beneficial and why I think that this makes AI agents smarter is because a lot of the times when you're dealing with AI agents, maybe if it's dealing with sensitive messages or whatnot, maybe you don't want to automatically send it out. Maybe you want to have, for instance, the ability to proofread what's being sent out before sending it out. Of course, you could create a draft here too, but another option is to create human in the loop in case you want to have a double take on what you're actually sending out. So over in Telegram, you can see down here that this is the email that's going to be sent out to this client here. And of course, it's a very elaborate, thought out email here with the subject line test and the email body test as well. And essentially, we can either decline this or we can approve it. If I go ahead and approve it, it's just going to open up an external link here. And then it's going to say that it's good to go, okay? And from there, we can come back and we can see now that that email has been sent off. Alternatively, we could decline it and then it'll just stop the workflow because obviously when we declined it, it's just going to shut the workflow off instead of continuing on. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that that's a really good way to be able to humanize these workflows, especially when it comes to sensitive data that you're sending and adding a personal touch to. Next thing I want to talk about, which I think that makes AI agents way easier and way faster to set up, is the mock data option and the pinned data option, these 2 buttons right here. So let me kind of break this down a bit. You have a main AI agent here, okay? And this main AI agent is calling maybe a sub-agent flow like this. And so the problem is that now you're creating 2 workflows, and when you're creating 2 workflows, there's just a lot of boilerplate stuff that you have to set up, just a lot of tedious things, and it's kind of a pain in the butt every single time you want to set this up, and it can take quite a while, especially if you're doing a lot of subflows. And so if we circle back here, traditionally what you'd have to do is you'd have to send a message via the chat, and then every single time you send the message, you would route through the AI agent into the subflow, and you'd have to continue with that process and look at the executions over here to see like past runs. That's a lot of work just to test something quickly as you're kind of rolling it out. And so that's why I like in n8n that you have this pin and mock data section here. And that is because now all of a sudden we don't have to call this subagent from the main flow. So we don't have to chat with it here to get this to run. We can essentially just run it from testing the workflow here with sample data. And so the first thing that we can do is we can pin the data, and then we can change the data using this crayon icon here. And so I could go ahead, I could change this data if I wanted to whatever, right? And then save it. And then this will allow us to test just so much faster. The next thing that I want to talk about here is the fact that inside n8n, now with recent updates, when you add tools into your AI agents, there's just so many more options here on the side. When I started n8n, there's like not that many, and now there seems to be a whole lot more, and I'm sure they're going to be adding tons of more modules in the future as well. So this is just growing over time. It's really, really nice to see. The next thing that I want to talk about is folders inside n8n. I think that this is like a small one, but a big deal, because I don't know, I just like when I'm using n8n, it's just so freaking easy. And I don't know about you, but it's so easy for this to get like so disorganized. It's like not a good thing. And then you just have like scrolling scenarios for days. And obviously I'm not even going to scroll because I think it's kind of embarrassing just how many scenarios there are. But anyways, what the cool thing about this is that you can create these folders for sub-agents or agents, and you can just merge all of your different agents and sub-agents into one folder, keep it nice and organized, and that way when you're trying to find a AI agent with subflows, you can just find it in the given folder, especially too when you're sorting from last updated. This gets really messy really quickly if you're like working on multiple projects at the same time. The next thing that I want to talk about is MCP, standing for Model Context Protocol. Now, the last two that I'm going to talk about here, I actually don't think that they're I think that they're going in the right, what am I trying to say here? They're going in the right direction, but at the time of this recording, I don't think that they're like incredibly powerful features, but given enough time in the next coming months, in the next coming years, I think these are going to be absolutely game changing. So what MCP is for short is it's just it's like a framework for large language models. You can think about like ChatGPT down here to communicate with your tools inside n8n, like Google Calendar, for example, or other tools could be whatever it is that you use on the side here, right? These are all the different tools that you can use, and MCP just allows these large language models to use these tools much better. So there's 4 major takeaways that I think MC is going to bring to the table, and keep in mind, none of this has been rolled out so far in n8n. But essentially, the first one is that I want to go over is this consolidating HTTP methods and auto-generating schemas. So essentially, if you look over here, we can see that there's 4 different Google Calendar modules here, right? One is to create, one is to search, one is to delete, one is to update. When you're dealing with this kind of stuff, it gets pretty tedious because you have to recreate the same thing over and over and over again, but you're just having like different actions within Google Calendar: create, delete, update, get, all that kind of stuff. Now with MCP, you can just merge all of these into one node here. So instead of having to define, hey, in this node we're going to create and in this node we're going to update, it's just going to take your unstructured prompt here, your chat, and when you say something like, create me a calendar event, it's probably going to be like, we should probably create a calendar event because he mentioned create a calendar event. Or when you say, update this calendar event, it's going to be like, okay, he said update, so we should probably update it. There's no need for you to go in and create like 4 different modules here to define all these things. It's just going to know off the top, like immediately, which is really nice because it's going to speed up the way that we build workflows inside n8n. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is that we're going to have tool discovery. What I mean by that is that if I open up one of these Google Calendar nodes here, there's quite a few operations we can do: create, delete, get many, update, all that kind of stuff. But there's so many more operations in Google Calendar that we can do. If we just head over to their docs, we can see that there's a lot of stuff here, probably like 40, 50 things that we could do. And with the auto tool discovery, what's going to happen is all of these are just probably going to be available to you. They're going to be updated automatically. And instead of you having to, build your own HTTP modules or having to be restricted by n8n's access, these are just going to be automatically there for you to use if you need them, which I think is really, really cool. The next thing that I think is a major takeaway is, again, auto-generating schemas, and this kind of goes into the natural language processing. So when you set these things up, right, you have to, for instance, if you're updating an event, you have to put in an end time, you have to put in a start time. Maybe you put in things like description or summary or whatever. There's a million things that, not a million, but there's a lot of things that you can put in here. And a lot of these things you can see, it's just like you're adding AI and it just does it for you. But in the future, you're not going to even have to do any of this kind of stuff. Like, all you're going to have to do is essentially just type in what it is that you want. It's like, hey, I want to create an event tomorrow for 1 hour at 1 p.m. And it's just going to know, okay, 1 p.m., 1 hour, so 2 p.m. end time, and so on and so forth. And so you're going to be building a lot of this out just through natural language instead of having to actually build these schemas. And where this is going to come in a lot in handy, especially, is with HTTP requests here, because there's a lot of boilerplate when you're using like URLs and methods and bodies and headers and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be a really, really nice feature in the future. Now, the only problem is we're not there yet, right? And so they do have two pieces of functionality. The first is the MCP client, and the second piece of functionality that they have right now is the MCP server. So if we went into add a trigger, and then I'm just selecting more ways down here, they have this MCP trigger. And so what do these do? Well, you can think about it very simply, like n8n is just allowing you to integrate n8n into external AI agents. So another external AI agent would be Claude over here. So essentially, imagine being able to send requests from n8n over to Claude here, and imagine being able to send requests from Claude over to n8n. So for example, you could be like, hey, create a calendar event for me for 1 p.m. tomorrow. And this could send data from here into your n8n workflow. And then from this workflow, it could update your Google Calendar. So that's kind of the way it works now. It's not really true MCP functionality yet. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about in this video, again, I think it has a long way to come, and it's certainly not perfect yet, but is the thinking module here. And so Anthropic just launched a new tool, which is the think tool, when enabling Claude to stop and think in complex tool use situations. So really the main thing that I want to, I think, stress the point of is that the difference between this think and this chat model here is that this chat model right here starts before the process. It thinks about how to iterate through the tasks, what to do in advance. Whereas this think module is kind of like, another step in the process. When this AI agent starts, it's going to slow it down, take some time, really think through the process as it's going. So maybe there's a mistake that happens. It's going to think about it and be like, okay, you've made a mistake. We need to back up here and then try it again. And so that's like one example of it, but I'm going to go over this pretty briefly. Essentially, what is the think tool? With the think tool, we're giving Claude the ability to include an additional think step, complete with its own design space, as part of getting to its final answers. While it sounds similar to extended thinking, which is part of this that I wanted to show, inside Anthropic Claude, you have, of course, the think module that we just went over, but inside this, you have the enable think, which I believe this is the extended thinking. Please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's a different concept. They work well together, but they're not the same thing. The extended thinking is all about what Claude does before it starts generating a response. So very similarly here, this model is what happens before it starts. It starts thinking and formulating the solution. And then with extended thinking, Claude deeply considers and iterates on his plans before taking action. So this is just another way to think more rationally about what has to happen and give more time to get better results. And the think tool, on the other hand, for Claude is once it starts generating a response to add a step to stop and think about whether it has all the information it needs to move forward. And so this is particularly useful when performing long chains of tool calls or in long multi-step conversations with the user. So if you're just like having a simple kind of AI agent like this, might not be all that useful, but as it kind of gets more complicated, it will become more useful. Now, the reason I say that this isn't like anything crazy yet is because, to be honest with you, and maybe I'm using this wrong, but I played around with it for quite a while and I just can't make it work properly. So essentially this like parrots back what the main AI agent says. So this AI agent says something and then the tool essentially repeats back to it. So I have an example here. So in my Google Calendar, I have these 3 events here, and I'm actually just going to add one more. This is going to be 2 p.m. And this is going to be, I don't know, skiing, let's just say. And I'm going to bring this down to 2 p.m. as well. And I wanted to give like a good example as to why this enable thinking is pretty powerful. And then I'm going to give you what the output looks here. And so I'm going to try this out. I'm going to open up a chat, paste in my message here. And what I'm saying is, please take a look at my calendar for tomorrow and check if there's any conflicts on my schedule. If there is, please update one of the events to stop it from conflicting. If we take a look at the calendar here, there is these 2 conflicting events, both at 2 p.m. Let's take a look and see how Claude 3.7 handles this. So first of all, it's calling the chat model here, okay? And then it's calling the think. Now let's talk about this think for a second. This is essentially what I mean by it just kind of parroting back essentially what the query is. So this and this response are essentially more or less the exact same. So this didn't really, I don't know, unless this is supposed to do something, this hasn't really turned out to be super beneficial in my testing so far, but I suspect that maybe it's newer and it's going to improve over time. And then if we look back at the chat model here, or the chat, it says, I've successfully resolved the calendar conflict for tomorrow. Here's what I did. I moved the rest break from 2 p.m. To 12 to 1. And so let's take a look and see. Now we can see that, I'm just going to refresh the page here. And cool. Now everything's totally fine. It's working. Now, I just want to compare this to ChatGPT because I think this is an interesting inference to take away from. I have tested this like 5 times and it works perfectly well, something like this with Claude 3.7. But when we test this out with ChatGPT, it doesn't work all that well. So I'm going to copy this and reset the chat. And instead of using Claude and its deep or enable thinking functionality here, I'm going to connect in ChatGPT and run the same prompt here. And so it's going to go ahead, use the think, search, and then here we go. So here are the events scheduled for tomorrow, April 23rd, blah, blah, blah. Next steps, would you like me to update? Yes, please update 1. And so we'll go ahead, we'll update it. Please let me know which event you would like to update. I'm just going to say skiing. Okay, and let's take a look at the results here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. And here's the point, is that ChatGPT is smart enough to recognize there's a conflict, and it's smart enough to recognize that it needs to change it. But the thing is that it's not changing it to a time that there is no other conflict with. So it's just updating it, but then it's not it's not checking again to see if what it's updating the new time to has an existing conflict as well. And so this is where I think that Anthropic's chat model does shine, and I really like the deep thinking or the thinking enable thinking functionality here as well, which gives it more time to create a really solid answer. So essentially, in a nutshell, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found value. If you did, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because I'm sure if you like this video, I'm sure you're going to like the other ones as well. And also, if you guys are interested, I would recommend taking a look at my school community here. Launched this a couple of months ago. Essentially, this is a great place to learn all things related to AI and automation. There's really 2 main purposes of this particular community here. It's for people to, once this page actually decides to load and not fail. So let me just refresh this one more time. Perfect. There's 2 paths for people here. For one type of person, they're, for path A, essentially, some people are coming in, they're looking to learn these skills and then be able to apply it to making money, starting their own agency, growing a business. And in this community, I talk all about how to do that in the most streamlined approach. And the second type of person is for those that have an existing business. Maybe they're already running something that's super successful and they just don't have enough time to run it. They're looking to win back some time. And in Path B, I talk about how you can automate pretty much everything there is to do with your business. And these are the exact blueprints that I use to automate my entire business as well. None of these are released on YouTube. And there's also tons of weekly calls, 5 calls a week in case you get into trouble with AI automation, you can't figure out a bug, and you need to jump on, get a quick solution. And I can help you out with that. And then, of course, a thriving community here as well. So thanks, guys, so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thanks and bye-bye.